Good evening. Or whatever it is, wherever you are. Got my second shot today. Come to think of it, I guess they must have finally run out of the I got my Vax stickers. Or they only do that to the first timers. I just forgot to hand me one. It's actually the vaccination center was actually pretty sparse. And there were a few other people in the waiting rooms and such, but I think almost all of the nurse stations were empty when I actually went in. Which probably means there's a lot of people who aren't getting vaxxed at all. I really expected it to be months until I could get in, so obviously it's not rushed. Anyway. Yeah, well, that one worked. I routinely have... Is it just me? No, there's a hard one. Or do these actually work better when zoomed out? Yeah. So it must be a bug with how it handles zooming. I don't know how I would tweak that at all. But I think we want to do our own hit detection, in part because we might end up switching to Canvas or something else someday. Which means I think it would be useful to have a in-memory model of where all the positions are, as in resolved positions. We can use that for both drawing and for hit detection. I know we're getting at least the god positions from the library. I don't know if we're getting anything else from the library. Let's see. Since last time... I know I tweaked Aries. Oops, we still got one on here. There's something else on? Oh, yeah, this is the grid name collision I still don't have a solution for. I added this into that group, but it actually shouldn't be affecting this line here. So that's something I have to think more about in terms of this extra thing in these versus the duo connections. I also put in some something for the ones that require boons. I don't have proper effects for the shading of it yet. All right, so the boon chart. We had our metrics thing, which is the centers. There's only one angle? Oh, that must be the step for each god. And the point-to-point distance between those. So metrics might kind of turn into our whole resolved model. All right, trace linkable gods. count, adjacent distance, and you see initial metrics is center's empty. We probably could figure that out. Actually, we might be able to get this thing to make that much. You get metrics 1, and metrics 2 is from the display gods, which does it by actually going around. It uses the initial metrics to do that stuff. Uses right, it uses your rotate. And this is a little sub thing. Okay, so you near that. Make a group out of it. Rotate within the group. And rotate the entire group after it's shifted out. Oh, that rotate also accomplishes the angle, although I think if we're rotating the position of it, we would just not do the shift and it would still get the same angle. I hope. All right, so metrics. Well, those are centers. Now, I'm probably going to want to have the angle that is at for other drawing purposes. But if I can get this from the raw data, then that's one step towards knowing the final positions of things. All right, so that comes from display gods, which does a shift and a rotate. Okay, so that is in fact a list of gods. And we also kind of need to do something with Hermes. Well, this list of centers as we're using it is just the ones around the edge. I think I just did a pure punt in 0, on Hermes, so that we have to think about how that all relates. So I think I've got this stuff in geometry. We've got some kind of rotate, right? Wait, where was I? You must have been in some sort of indexed map? Oh, yeah, list.range. Wait. Oh, this is a generic ring layout. I don't know if this is actually the same as... That returns chart metrics? Oh, Hey, Rainy. I'm not using this function. Although it's awfully close to what I want. Well, this receives the count from elsewhere. Ooh, I'd have to... Well, the count is just a number. We could test it manually for now. So you got the count, which we know is 8, and the radius... which is main ring radius. Oh, right. So it's not going to affect display god, but that's the center we are using to place all their icons later, so that is lining up. All right. Now, I think we could actually... 2, 1... And that gets used to lay out those. And we don't have a 1 and a 2 anymore, we really just have a matrix. Which we misspelled. Ah, missed one, because that was still using 1. All right, that gives us our god positions without having to actually draw. Although I'm kind of cheating on this number right now. So where do you get it from? Or I guess initial metrics isn't used now. Maybe we still use initial metrics? Because that's getting a count from somewhere. Okay, then you don't need this. Oh, you got the model traits? Now, centers equals array dot length. Ooh, I'm actually using that for the size of the ring. And we've got a width default. We've got a god index. Which is entirely manual. Now if we bump that up by 1, that might affect our wraparound. Because then it would be 8. Well, we're doing a subtraction. No, that would affect, because we could have a 1 minus 8, I guess. It's like 8 minus 1 would be the same. But 1 minus 8 could be 9. That would just be, well, it would be negative 7. See, so 0 minus 7 is negative 7. 1 minus 8 is negative 7. That might be okay. But that is like a special case of the ring layout. So that is that number of things. We would actually have to do that for the main. And then go in and add Hermes back. All right, well, that's one piece. So display. I probably already removed the loop. And then base is the center coordinate thing. We don't use that anywhere else. That's probably that's the only place we're getting coordinates from the graphics. Unless I was using a different corner of something. So given metrics, we could get. Actually, layout. What is layout? Is this boon thing, which already name icon location. We've got all our arc stuff. So I might have the things here to lay stuff out. So metrics, let's see, the gods come from actual displaying things. Where, and then you just graphics that we stack. So I don't actually have to do you in advance here. Okay. I just have a bunch of shirts. I just grabbed the next one off the rack. What's particularly nice about a gray shirt? Okay. All right, so metrics. The display also uses that, and it uses those functions. So in use of metrics, I guess that much is up there. And then we just looked at that. Scale to that size. And now you're doing a rotate. Well, you still have to do the rotate. But I could move you to the center in the metrics. So let's do scale. I have to get the corresponding one. What do I do when I'm laying out the boons connectors and things? God center of metrics. We have a display God, which doesn't currently get metrics. Is it just shift? Okay, so then shift takes a point, which that should resolve to a point. That hadn't compiled yet. Is that right? That should give us something different. Oh, yep, different. All right. So you still have to rotate to a certain position. And I'd eventually want that for our point placement and stuff too, I think. I mean, I had a shower earlier. It's been a while, though. It's also been kind of hot and humid, I guess. Also, it's just getting long. It's at the point where it's like, I could just wait a few more weeks and then go have a professional do it. Okay, does not seem to be much affected by the grouping. I think that was it. That was mostly for the rotation, how it was handling rotation stuff. Yeah, once upon a time I had very long hair, but I got tired of it getting tangled and stuff, but did seem that some people liked that. I mean, like, even now, it's starting to annoy me at times, both from time to dry and like sometimes I just run my hand through my hair and like a few come out, and now we've got these long hairs that are just kind of shedding all over the place. Now, that angle. I am rather tired of clicking on things and not having anything happen like it's supposed to. Like, there's one that works. So I think I'm just going to have to figure out the absolute coordinates of everything so that I can do it for myself. Right. So far, I've been kind of relying on the graphics library to just kind of. It's almost like a recursive kind of drawing, where you say, okay, we are going to draw this stuff here, and then all of that stuff is using its kind of local relative coordinate system, which is actually not represented here because I kind of hacked in display of these things. That I found that to work well for other kinds of drawings that I've done, but I didn't have to do any click interaction there. I think there's been a few other things that have been awkward while working on this project. Maybe it's because I need to do these like connections between points across the graph. That was the other thing that got a little weird. It's like I kind of have to know where you are to draw lines to you. You're using linkable gods. Oh no, you're using that as well. Okay. We're not just doing the drop one for Hermes. I think I was thinking of possibly reusing this thing for the old rings I was using for here, and maybe I never did. Display gods, lay out basic boons. So I used some similar stuff, but not exactly the same. So actually, we've kind of got the angle right there. So we could go about this by a parallel list of angles. And we'd make that an array so we could index that easily. Or we have to put that information all in. It could be a thruple, it could be a point and angle. I could start to make up a new structure that has all of the data split for specific to one god stuff, which I might end up needing. How are we handling this at the top level? Because I feel like we're just doing, yeah, basic boons, duo connectors, basic connectors are all just big O soups. Model.traits. Isn't model.traits the list of all gods? Oh, basic boons. So that gives you a, and this just concats them all. For the basic stuff, I could use the gods to sort of subdivide the hit detection side of things. That would mean kind of keeping them all separate for a little bit longer. All right, so what is name, ID, location, center and add A, archetype, connector, chart metrics. Traits, duos, requirements. There might be some stuff that wouldn't be directly encoded in there. I could, let's see, right now we're only sort of incidentally using the name. So if we translated that to location information, it would be God. We would need a color. We're really only using one color right now. Oh, we're actually using the layout, and we're actually putting layout information into there. Which, that's something that I haven't been completely sure about. So maybe having a graphics structure would give us a different way to handle that. So right now this is top level chart metrics, which has centers. Will that end up holding our connectors and stuff too? Right now that's all connectors. We're not subdividing them, so that's another thing that might need to tweak. I don't have a better name for this right now. Boon and connector were kind of available. We've already got God. So you would have a center. You would have an angle. And I could even start there and not necessarily subdivide everything else yet. And I wouldn't actually necessarily need these if this stuff was all pre-computed. Well, I guess I still need this for scale. All right, so now wherever we make that, we have to at least put a dummy value in there. Godmetics. No. That's not even a word. All right, do we have another one we're making? Oh, I said you were a singular one. Okay. This is no longer as generic of a thing. So as we transition this forward, let's dot range to that, rotate that. And the angle we would get from display God we've even got an eye. And there's that angle, which is that angle. Which we basically need to let block, because that's exactly that. It should be a chart metrics. And that was the last error. List, angle, float. Did I incorrectly identify center point, angle, float? Oh, I didn't convert you to a array. So we end up doing index lookups. Now, if we can get all of our data into here, then we don't have to worry about the order it's in anymore, or doing index lookups. All right, now we could potentially get the information we were getting from centers, from gods. And this is just array length, so that's easy. So that should continue to work. And then I think we don't need that anymore. All right, and then display God. So we have a special thing to get the center, which we've actually used in several places. Oh, which was this process. Well, now we have two things we want to get out here. Well, some of the places just want the center. Some of them would want, at least one of them would want both. And we have to just look up twice if we want to get one and then get the other. Oh, but because this array lookup can fail, we also have to consider what we're going to do with an angle. I don't think so. I'm going to try to stop from copying into the mic, and in theory I have set up a mute, but I keep forgetting about it in the moment. All right, so the way to get rid of that and what the heck is my laptop doing? I'm trying to take off. We could do a function like this. I guess I could turn it into a local maybe, and then deal with the defaults here. And we already have a metrics. That's a maybe. Which means everywhere we use it, we have to map and default. Wait, why does God Center? Oh, we actually have to get the odd index. It's not just... Right, because I assigned them specific indexes. I don't know if my other data is coming in that order. Ooh. Yeah, this is turning into a right mess. Maybe dot map dot angle. Maybe with default. Bearing it in function sure looks better now. Maybe I should be able to return a default object from there. Well, the real answer to that might be get it to where we can render everything from the positional data with what is currently God metrics. And then we can just put that in order and then just draw things. And all the maybes go away then. Because it'll just be the thing we're doing. So display God still uses the main thing. You're using name, color, and name. Did I miss the compile? All right, so you get made in ring layout, which is not just ring layout anymore. But do you just take count and radius? You don't actually have that information handy. I think I was looking at maybe using this as a thing I could use to lay out anything. It didn't quite work out that way. At which point I could just kind of inline it into here. Oh, and that used radius. This arguably should have used that argument. I don't think that could be argued as a generic ring layout anymore, though. Oh, did I just... I guess I just scrolled down, so I wasn't seeing the updates. Oh, you do have traits. We're just using the count And you're using your range now. Oh, this is the positional. This is the positional effect. If I want to get them in order, we did, no, not you. We did this. Well, that would effectively be kind of rotate. Well, that wouldn't even hit Hermes, although we're probably eventually going to have to do him. Let's see, that's in a list, that's an array. They probably would both have sorts. No, you don't. Yeah, lists have sorts. Sort by the value itself, sort by a function, comparison function. Well, that's a function of the entire data. I don't think I have a function. Well, I could make a function for it. Let's see, so count is still important for our angle. So I can do the map by looking up the index. But then I'm going to have to look it up again, essentially, with the sort. But if I sort, I could do an indexed map. Well, if we end up putting Hermes back, because we do use the I. And the index isn't in, well, I think I might need to go to where that is the same. And the comparison operator we want is traits dot data god into god index, and then we want to use, is it indexed map? Which gets the int and the data, and we've defined it as an array. That's fine for now because everything still depends on that. Then you can also contain I'm not actually sure we need this, but we might. Of course, I have to fill all that stuff out. Initial metrics. Name equals, oh, I can't, I abstracted everything. Did I just do a pattern here? Okay. Will that get us all the way through? I don't know. So a place, we could possibly use that. We'll display gods. Gets a chart metrics. You use traits, linkable gods. Right now, we're not doing any derived stuff here. You know what? You don't use I anymore. First of all, you can be a map. Second of all, we can just use metrics dot gods. That would make this just the straight up god metrics. So we don't need that now. You're going to totally change. Your name, right? Collage layout name. Oh, and then we're down here. This is no longer maybe because we're just iterating the thing. Oh, this would be an array map now. Oh, and then we have to go back. Maybe we better do this up front. That's where we might eventually want to turn that into a list anyway. Once we stop doing index lookups and everything. Does that... Can we do that? Because right now, I think we're going into some of our boons and things and going, okay, look up the index, look up the data, look up the center. Still, that's a step. So the things we used that for: layout basic connectors, layout basic boons. Calculate adjacent. Ah, so those are adjacent boons. God center. Oh, the direct endpoints. Yeah, so we're gonna be using these centers all over the place in all of these arcs. And what we have in that position is the God Enum ID. So we're going through the duos. The duos are going to give us essentially two arbitrary gods that we have to be able to look up. Okay, well then there was the question of if we rotated our indexing and stuck Hermes in the list, would that hurt us? Okay, so that only makes sense. If you so that's main. Sort by index, so you can just be all gods will get sorted in that order. Okay, and oh. Right, Hermes then got ran through our standard thing. Oh, because all of these get shoved out. Also, it's off by one, because now we need to do... This needs to be I minus 1. They're still going to be overlapped. So either we need to calculate you separately, we need to special case I0. What is the argument order for the operator? Or it's actually in basics. Oh. Add a number to the front of the list. about we need that. I can't be guaranteed to get a field from that. Oh, this is back to main. So this needs to be back to traits. All gods. And now he's got a ring. Which isn't actually helping us here. Well, that moves those a little bit farther out at least. And I might have to give him a background. Although the lines here are practically invisible now. Okay. Actually, the index doesn't seem to have hurt these. So that's an array. Got to do lookups. Got to do lookups particularly for duos. I could see about getting rid of the lookups for other things. All right. Adjacency is direct. We use it there for sorting, and that's center. Basic connectors. Which, if we went through basic metrics, that would be fine. What else do you need data for? Traits.data layout. And from there on, that's all you use. So that means our metrics would have to have the layout information. Well, there might be other things that we're currently iterating over gods for. Layout basic boons. Layout, okay, you need layout and boons. Now, we'd want the god metrics to have the laid out boons. So maybe our metrics thing actually turns into doing all of these calculations too. Well, we have to have, but the partials is the awkward thing. Because we need to have that center. Maybe we could pass the center to it if we're in the process of doing that god. And then the duo boons, where I don't know that looking that up is going to be avoidable. So, oh, yeah, for duos, we're going to have, I guess all the gods can be done, and then all the duo arcs are going to be like an extra structure, a separate structure in metrics. Do we ever stick those together? I don't think so. All right, so we might have some kind of duplicated code for a bit. Because we kind of want to take this and be able to pass it its god metrics. Well, it's god metrics. Let's see. Oh, do we not necessarily have layouts with god metrics? We have these laid out things. Wait, if this is calculating it, what do you use this for? You use that for the center. So would we just say, okay, we're in the midst of calculating the center. So we'll just pass you the center instead of the metrics where you can look up this particular thing. Right, because you are used in an iteration where we don't know what we're doing that. At calculation time, we'd have that. So, no. God metrics, so we think that you're going to have well, it could be of several things. So you're looking at basic boons of and that is a list boon if I'm not mistaken. Now in traits, We had just called it traits, so boons is fine. I was going to get more duplicated stuff. I guess really we're only changing 2 fields here, huh? We don't have center anywhere else. Oh, we need to have A before this. Then this collapses down to a single case. All right. Can we easily do this as kind of as is, or do we need to like temporarily have a copy of the function with a slightly different name? Well, that's basic connectors, which is going to be very, very similar. The main thing you need the center, and maybe we eventually need to do the angle. Let's see. But we have a method to look this up. Well, it makes this thing uglier, but we're hoping to get rid of it. And this completely replaces the metrics here, I believe. Now, maybe we eventually want to deal with the rotation here. That should get us to where we were. And this should be callable here. Now we're going to be doing twice as much work for a little bit. And will you just read just that? Yeah. Now, before we were putting it into one giant list. Of basic boons. We didn't do any other like super meta stuff with it. What we did do is a bit of scaling and zooming and clamping and... Oh, right, that was the visibility scaling. And... Right, that is going to give us a big list of all the actual boons. That scaling is going to apply on an individual boon level. That depends on model.zoom, which is currently primarily available at there. Display is dealing with whether it's active or not, which that's the kind of runtime information we're expecting to change a lot. Selected, active traits. This model.traits is dealing with the requirements. Yeah, that's more like final presentation stuff. I'm trying to do the basic layout things that shouldn't change at runtime. So what we need to do then is, in order to use those, we have to do a thing that goes through and pulls them out and does the concat map stuff. This is not layout basic boons anymore. Or is this a thing we can just do inline? So this is from our metrics. It's an array. Although we don't care about it being an array here. We can just do a concat map. Okay. Now, we're not actually saving ourselves any calculations until we can pull all of this out somewhere, which is not necessary, but might save us a little bit of work. So that actually wasn't too bad. Now, for hit detection purposes, the icons are the main thing we're interested in. But as long as we're doing this, we might as well get the rest of our stuff pre-calculated here. Then we can, this is kind of going to turn into a boon chart layout model of some sort. Well, I guess the only complication there is we're going to be kind of like gradually loading in our data. So we'll have to, if we store it, we're going to have to track when we update it. Now is connector, shape, link, group. That is what we're calculating here. Now, I haven't actually checked if these are as easy to calculate, although this thing is getting the same arguments. And this thing is getting the same arguments, so it shouldn't be too bad. Now, of course, I removed the code where I had done an easy substitution on this. Now, the question is, what do we use metrics for? We used it for the center. Okay. Layout basic connectors of with center for this god. Nothing complicated there. That should look a lot like this. And we still see all of our lines in place. And since we're dealing with layout stuff, now this is not going to be a per god thing. So it is going to be, well, it's going to be part of metrics, but not part of that loop. But you take metrics. And you do have to sort of interactively look up centers as the need arises. We can put the other one. That was only numbering. Let's see. So duo boons, basic boons, duo connectors, basic connectors. We did some of our scaling a little bit different here. These did not end up varying. Initial metrics. So we might have to pre-calculate this to a gods list. Ooh. That's individual god metrics. Okay, so we don't actually need that global angle really anymore. Adjacent distance. Calculate opposite. So it's almost like we need a full matrix structure. But if the, well, actually, since it wouldn't be in here, this would have the duo boons and duo connectors. So we'd have to make a version of it without that stuff, pass it down to that stuff, and then update it for the final version to have the duos. Or it would have to take both the gods and the adjacent distance as arguments. Guess that's initial metrics. That's a display side thing. Oh, that's basic boons recalculating it? Are you just straight up recalculating it? Initial metrics. We were passing metrics in there before. Who was doing that? Adjacent. Are you using angle? Yeah. Oh, this is the rotate thing for one. Actually, are you using? but it's not using it. And this is the angle from, no, this depends on this count rather than, I think I copied that ring code down here. Okay. Yes, the duo stuff needs that. But if we're calling that from here, we could do just that. We'd have to do this to a let. We'd have to do gods to a let variable and pass both. How many layers down is that? Yeah, because you get metrics. Did you calculate arc? Oh, has this all this stuff as implicit arguments. Yeah, so there's one. So there's like, I don't know, 1 or 2 layers, depending on how you count it. That goes through calculate duo, which goes through layout duo boon. So that would turn one parameter into 2. That'd be a little bit annoying, especially with the number of arguments these things already have. What's a boon have? Yeah, you don't have the type currently. Which I think is what we need to. We end up calculating the boon for duo boons as part of this process, which includes calculating the position. So yeah, that wouldn't really work. So is initial metrics everything without the duo boons, and then we'll just have like a calculate metrics? That's what we use here. That does all of that stuff. Dummies in, duo boons and duo connectors. And then this structure is what we pass down to all the duo stuff. And then update them, or do an updated version of the metrics that has that information. God, that should be an OOP. Use that a lot. Then we have duo boons. Oh. And for the moment, this has to stay an array because we're still doing index lookups. I guess I could replace that with a list iteration searching for the key. And we're gonna do a lot of them. Okay, so that is compilable. This might actually be more of a drop-in. Chart metrics, list of traits. Array.toList, concat map, that was doing all that stuff. Okay, so that was a little bit more drop-in. All right, so that gives us pre-calculated positions for everything. Which, well, I don't know if, I still have to determine if they're global positions. Or if we've got some scaling stuff going on. I might also need to account for some of this stuff. Otherwise, it could look like you can click on something when we're using a different detection size. Okay, so we left them in their groups because that could be useful for hit detection stuff. That might give us enough information to start rotating layouts. Well, that's not directly relevant to what we're trying to do. However, I don't know if that's yet at the proper scale. So we're doing the over... Ooh. Yeah. Well, overall model we can deal with. That's a pretty easy translation to do. And that's the god at its size. That's text, which it looks like we're still kind of doing in a unit coordinate system, maybe? Right, because we're scaling to that, which means it's in unit coordinate. And this is where unit coordinate is nice. Or unit scale. Because I just say, I'm going to lay this thing out as if it was the entire picture. And then whoever's using it is going to figure out what size it needs to be. Now, if I'm going to do... Well, geez, I know all of this god's things are going to be in this circle. Then as long as my scaling factors match, that could be okay. Because as we go into here, we can scale, and then that'll be okay. So I guess to a certain extent, I just have to do the hit detection and see if the coordinates make any sense. Now, scale-wise, well, this also affects by rotation because of where certain things hit. So it does feel like certain ones may be smaller than others. Like Dionysus and Ares versus, I mean, like Artemis is almost all the way out. Zeus was kind of big. Poseidon got all the way towards the top and bottom. Oh, I guess Demeter kind of did too. It was just on a different line. And maybe when there were these longer shapes, they let them get out closer. No, Athena was pretty big though. So what do we get from a click handler? Now you just get a clicked on. Okay, so an on click is just a message. We're going to have to do our own mouse down, mouse up, mouse move to do point-based detection. And we happen to already do those for zooming. On mouse move, we only care about if we're dragging. Oh, we might have to do our own click versus drag detection. But if we could just even do more of a hover style thing to start with, because it's, did I? I have the dragging thing. Oh, drag 2 handles that. I think. So actually the thing you do here is just take the point and try to collide it, which puts us back to here. Which I guess for now, yeah, are we calculating the metrics on a per move? No, I haven't published it yet. I guess it's almost useful at this point, but there's still missing lines. Those wouldn't be terribly hard things to do. Except well, there's currently this very, very slow load-in, which makes me wonder if I want to continue using my current loading method, which it would impact, that would basically be wasted effort to do it right now. I've still got some issues with naming. Let's see, who was it? Did we hit you? Yeah, I hit you and this lit up. So I've got some cross-contamination issues there. Scale is wrong. Duo boons actually aren't connecting yet. There's all the imports. Individual design issues. We are not... This must be for... There are some things that are simply not represented. There's some things that connect on age, some things that connect on casts. There is some things that can effectively disable other choices. So like you have your attack special, rush dash, call. Those are all slot exclusive, so you pick one, it's going to knock out all the others and anything that requires them. And then a whole bunch of design issues. It's from line scaling. We've got the dim effects for these things. So the rules are almost right at this point. Because we're using the game data, but there's a couple of weird things. Actually, probably more noticeable if we went the other way. Oh, it lit up that one. Oh, actually, it doesn't. Interesting. So it's technically this thing that's the same as that. Or showing up the same as that. Oh, and we got on Artemis too. I think when I did you, we had something show up on Aphrodite, or we were missing one of her lines. So I guess if I didn't do all the dark stuff, you could just use it as a hand reference, in terms of rule application things. But then we have like duo boons aren't connected yet, and I haven't even drawn in most of them because I still need to prove that out. But the hit detection while testing things is just so frustrating that I kind of need to do that first for my own sanity. So doing this on a per move is going to be extraordinarily painful, probably. But it starts to prove out the concept. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, in theory, I could have I could just like remove this, maybe put like the God icon here and publish it as just a duo chart. That would have a small amount of value because those are very hard to think about as presented. Now, the God associated way they do it is useful to an extent because like, oh well, I have this. What can I get to? But we do actually have. I don't even know if this is a valid combination, but we actually have. This has become available essentially here. So there's that. There are a whole bunch of little special cases I'm probably just going to have to hand code. I have to deal with the selection of the cast type. I have to deal with special case casts for the ammo load stuff. There is a Supergiant Discord, which they mainly set up when they launched Hades, and there is a Hades modding Discord, which I haven't. I mean, I found a bunch of the tools to get the game data there, but I haven't really had much occasion to talk yet. That will probably be more important if I try to get this into the game. And it won't necessarily look like this. I might ask around a little bit to see how much of it's possible. It might be, well, there might also be a version of this that is pure dynamic. Because right now it's a very, very big thing. So you would like pick one thing and it would only show you the adjacents, but you'd still have to have something like this to pick when you go pick up something new. So that could be that. Yeah, I tried streaming under Hades one day when I was mostly doing layout stuff and I didn't really get a whole lot of commentary. And I'm still like very, very down in the weeds on code, so I don't know if it's gonna be too much interest there in general. Actually, the zoom is going to be. We do have the offset in the zoom, so that's going to be a complication. I might want to. Well, I might actually want to set my initial zoom to 1 for a little bit. Does that leave anything in view, though? Yeah. Are you in pixels or what? That must be pixels. So now I need to know how big this is. Unless Twitch has improved things recently, it doesn't really show up under both categories. I know, I mean, it's been a little while since I looked. But like, you see people who started a stream in 1 Hour One Life, and like it was actually the last thing they played, and then they like immediately switch over to Fortnite or whatever. And vice versa, they were playing in something else. Then first thing or midstream or whatever, they change into One Life. And maybe I hear about that from Discord comments or something, but you wouldn't see it by looking at the videos. Twitch has gotten a little bit better over time. If you look at the individual VOD, you can find the section that was tagged in that game. If you look at an individual person's channel, it will actually list that as a game they've played, and if you go into that index, it will show you that VOD, I think, jump to that position. But for general discoverability type of tagging, on the VODs, it's the game you started with, is the only thing it's known as. Oh, it must be negative. And that was kind of taking care of itself. Still not Hermes. Oh, are you negative too? Oh, because maybe the offset is actually pushing it over that way. Oh, and that's the center of that. Well, I have something I can hit detect at least. And we could fiddle with that to get more, but now that offset is something we're going to have to consider in our. I guess we have to consider that to some extent, but at least it gets zoom out of the way. All right, so the boon chart actually has this data. Well, it's larger, but it's also one of the junk bins of Twitch, so. I mean, this project is probably something that might be of interest to a Hades player, but most of the time I'm going to be dealing with code stuff. Now, I guess I've kind of got it on screen. If somebody comes by, we can talk about it. But I've tried to do that a few times, like even with like 1 Hour 1 Life, and it just I think I'm going to be doing stuff that like is kind of visual and you can kind of see some design thinking, and then it just ends up being we get off on a code rabbit hole. Well, there's just some things that don't really have good categories. So you have everything from, you know, data dashboards to pot growing to animal cameras. It just kind of stuff that doesn't fit anywhere else. All right, so boon chart is going to be pretty high level. Ah, yes. So we are going to try to hit detect. The only thing we're detecting right now is boons. Oh, I don't keep this thing around. It only exists in the view right now. So technically we wouldn't need... I guess I technically wouldn't need any of these things. And maybe we actually need to consider drag mode at some point. Technically, I'd only need offset, zoom, and the traits. It might at some point make sense to have this be more of a model I keep around. And then you just pass that through. So we have a offset, we have a zoom, and we have our final point. So this is the stuff that we want to be using. I guess the easier thing to start with would actually be the duo boons, because they're just top level. You see this? I thought this hit boon, which is a very generic thing. Even that's not necessarily great. I mean, technically that could encompass the filter here. And this is the entire chart. Oh, and your return value. And ideally, we'd pick a best hit. That will slightly complicate things. Oh, but then, well, you don't need traits. I might actually be able to do... Maybe I can do the offset and zoom stuff ahead of time. Well, if I've moved offset over, I have to at least consider that. Although I could do that before passing it down. That moves... So right now, the chart is dealing with offset and zoom, although the top-level application is actually moving things. So maybe you should actually be dealing with... I should be dealing with this. And then everything else can just deal with an internal point. So for now... Now you're just zoom. And this is where we kind of have to feel out if this is plus or minus. Things like that. Actually, this is going to be minus, isn't it? No, this is the origin. We're going to have to see the points we get and the points we're looking at. Somewhere we're going to need X and Y. I'm not sure when. But this is mainly just going to be list dot filter. Might have mentioned some kind of sort or something on here. I see. You're a filter. You're saying it's a maybe trait ID. Well, if we're filtering it, All right, so now we're list processing. Oh, and a filter is a... Isn't there a, like a filter map? Yeah. Although we could do that and then get the trait that it is. So that could work too. So that would make you a bool, though. We might eventually want a distance there to sort by. And, can I decompress? So a boon is going to have a location. But I don't know if I can decompress the individual point. Or destructure the individual point. Okay, nested tuples, easy, it's purely structural. List record. By name, must match the key of the record. We do as whole record. Yes, I don't need XY here because I've got point operations, right? So what we're really going to be doing so we've got sub, scale, length of a single point. And then this actually doesn't flow very well. I mean, I could make that a comparison function. So all of this stuff, what's my size? Because I'm using all the relative scales, I don't really have a good sense for what a... Well, I guess if we're at this scale, (77 by 77), which means that we're around 30th something as a radius. And this isn't considering like looking on the text. So this thing produces a maybe trait ID. Oh. I guess for this test, we would just reset it to nothing activated. And boon chart. So you need the traits, the model.offset, the model.zoom, eventually, and that point. That is going to give you a maybe. Maybe.map. Set.singleton. Actually, that's just it. Maybe.with default set.empty. Ah, okay, so I am doing something to limit mouse moves. I'm probably doing that in... No, I don't think... Yeah. So easiest thing is to just reverse that. We won't be able to zoom, but we do want to do that eventually. Oh. It's actually just super lagged out. Oh, no. Okay. Maybe I reloaded too fast? Okay. Yeah, those are all the test locations of all the duo boons. But we've lost the point we're testing. Yeah, we have to do some accounting for scale. Those look like unit coordinates. Now we're only looking at duo boons, so those would be unit coordinates within the entire thing. I might end up wanting to just calculate this stuff in top level coordinates, but for now, the easier path. Oh, and then that is, we're doing that, oh, actually with offset. So, well, that point is also in those coordinates. Actually, that probably is right. And what did I say my scale was? Well, we did define these even though we're not using them separately. Okay, we are testing. Oh, I'm only testing duoboons, but we're not in a position that can see any duoboons. Okay, so that took us from top corner to center. I mean, somewhere around here there's going to be the whole ring passing by. It gets us one candidate, two candidates. If I'm coming down here, I'm not going to be able to see how that works out. But negative, negative. Seems to at least be kind of in the same scale. But that's not working. I wonder if this is a sign issue. Of course, we're not dealing with scale, so it's kind of hard to zoom out and just wave over everything. Mainly because I'm not sure which way scale's going to go. Well, the graph has coordinates in unit. In principle, did I click you? No, we're always testing that. That's a little bit peculiar. Oh, is this too big now? Well, I guess we're actually fine to be back at 0, 0. That seems a little bit weird. Because that's what I wanted to pull back for. But our offset is all messed up, so. Boon chart. Oh. The question of before or after offset is a question. So our test point... Hey, just a Sophie. How's it going? I want to turn off locations just for a little bit, just to get a sense of what kind of points we're generating here. Because I think we want to be generating unit points. That was pretty 0, 0. That, yeah, so I might need to be inverting zoom here. Which makes me wonder how the height and width stuff is going. So from very small numbers to that's not full size. Right, that can be a 1. Oh, that's why I kind of disabled my dragging logic here. I wonder if these can be global coordinates. So in that position, this is about 1, 1. But after zooming, it's not. So that might mean that we're dealing with origin incorrectly? How are we dealing with stuff in an actual drawing? We're taking all that stuff for a group, we're scaling and then shifting. Oh, scaling to size, shifting, and then scaling zoom. I think that means we would kind of need to go opposite order, going the other way. So it's scale to zoom, we would offset, and then we would do width. Oh, I didn't want to deal with all the zoom stuff right away, but I can't even quite get a sense of how the rest of it's going with everything so zoomed in. Could I just use a smaller drawing? And it has some graphics implications, but... Kind of. That has some other implications on our size choices. Which is interesting. Oh, because I'm doing things relative to zoom factor. Okay, so that lets us take one element out for now. I can barely tell that's lit though. Can I tweak my zoom relative sizing? Well, we've got clamps. Well, I guess the clamps might be limiting that, huh? It's a little bit bigger. Probably the clamps taking over. Well, that's supposed to be to... those are relative sizes. I'm slightly disappointed that that is... Well, because we're doing it relative to zoom. And now we're showing this at a zoom where that used to be a very close in view. I could at least see something there. Anyway, so that's... Oh, you know what? You're 0, 0. So we have to do a center offset of some sort. And you know what? We have geometry operations. We only have a single size now, though. And that doesn't, let's see, that gets us to a... After scaling, we're in a 0, 1 type space. No, this is episode subworks. It's a constant, so adding or subbing is E. Now, which way is that direction? Which way does that sub, though? Oh? Oh, right, because we're not printing. Okay, so we need to scale by the opposite of that. Okay, so that is... Ooh, that's a positive. That's a negative. That seems backwards. Maybe I subbed the wrong direction? Well, that's a full-on flip. So that would actually have to be a... That has to, like, scale by negative? Okay, no, that was... The sub was the wrong direction, I guess. Now, we're still always picking this point, which seems problematic. The other thing I have to see is if this coordinate system is maybe a little bit upside down somewhere. So I might want to do something... Boons, list.filter... Pick one candidate location. I'm not sure which boon that's going to be. We could figure that out. Even better. duo boons. And hey, what do you know? That first element was it. That was always getting picked. Because it was the list head if this tested out. So this is probably like a garbage number that's not relatable to... Yeah, this is like... Yeah, I was doing this in like pixels, wasn't I? All right, well, now we can see what that location is. And it is very close to 0, which it should be. And about 0.25, that's positive. Okay, so that actually does want to be positive in that direction. Didn't I have a little function for this? Yeah. Still shouldn't be highlighted, but that might be a distance thing, because now we're in like unit coordinates. I have to figure out what that means. Negative 0.65. So now maybe we need to flip this later. Okay, so those are reasonably close. We want 0.03. That's not like 0.2. Maybe the cursor point isn't quite where I think it is. I'm using collage, which I might have to replace at some point. I've already essentially had to fork it to get the arcs. Technically, I'm using Elm UI as well, but I haven't done any extra UI, so that's just kind of extra library right now. If I end up doing like a search sidebar or anything, that might be more useful. And the other need to replace it is I'm trying to figure out these coordinates, do my own hit detection, because the native hit detection stinks. Things might be a little bit broken right now, but in fact, they are going to be. Well, there's also this problem. Yeah, because I'm replacing my selection set right now, so I can't actually really test that. So I kind of don't. I'm not sure I like this as a test. Oh, that does feel like our y coordinate is wonky. You know what? It might actually be this. My little scale number here might be getting in the way too. That's a little over 0.25. That's also a little over 0.25, so... Wait, that's... Oh, I'm looking at the location. 0.48. That's already a little bit more. So maybe we are getting coordinates that are relative to this. Well, yeah, I guess the x is offset too. How do I figure out what that is? It might just be that I'm getting like screen coordinates. Yeah, because this is like my overall layout. Unless there's actually something internally to here that's not quite the scale I think it is. Because I'm kind of using my internal layout, but if like we add a little bit of padding somewhere, or there's like some implicit padding to that entire thing that makes it not as big as we think it is. Well, we said it was like 400, right? Yeah. Oh, yeah, actually that's the entire rect. There's no, yeah. I said 400. This is 413. So that might be, that could be some of the, well, I'm not really drawing it anymore. So I don't know if it counts. There was some stuff that kind of went over the edge. Why do we have extras? Maybe that's just a thing with collage, just adding padding. Scale size, 400. Then we put the frame around it. Move it to the offset, which is currently 0, 0. And then we apply our zoom, which right now is nothing, so it's kind of hard to say what that does. But I think that's probably going to have a visible impact. Actually, that's... Well, we're doing all sorts of debug stuff right now, so it's not very responsive. Or did I get the right reload? God, that didn't change it. I don't know if it affects... Well, I mean, if it's the wrong size, it's going to be... Things are not going to be where we calculate them to be. So I could try and unwind my unit scale stuff. Calculate the actual pixel positions of things, and then we have to see if collage is still putting things in different places. Now, this is actually a rect inside of it. Okay, that must be the group of all the gods. Group of all the texts? There's a 373 inside the entire thing. There's individual... Ooh, you showed up someplace strange. So that's something that just kind of has a bounding box. Oh, we've got a bunch of scale 1-1s. This is like a rounding error. Div, SVG, width, height. Translate 0, scale 1. Translate 0, scale 1. Translate 0, scale 400, 400. And we got 413. I wonder if this is if the debug thing adds a border. Oh, and I put my own frame around it. 413. Where'd I put? Where's that frame? Rectangle. Oh. Well. No, it's just the entire thing. We did say the top was 100%, didn't we? But I think that there used to be a space between the rectangle and this thing. Now, maybe because we didn't have an explicitly sized thing is why it went 100% there. And if we do have an explicitly sized thing, then it decides to add some padding. Because I added no padding to this. Oh, 0.448? Yeah, that thing's 373. There's this, oh, because we're drawing things inside of it, so I guess I could maybe see that. And then with the margins out here, which I'm assuming are browser margins? You're not browser margins. Okay, that might be coming from MUI actually. And of course I got my zoom factor up there. That's going to be in our general view. Oop. Oh, you know what? That black rectangle is what gave us a hit target for dragging. And for the time being, we also put a border around it so we can check that versus the debug to see if anything's extending. But it sure looks to me like that adds a significant border. Oh, right, because this thing, right, this thing is not full size. This thing is full size. Now, maybe having an edge is one of the reasons that that's getting pushed out. Well, it's negative 0.4, so it would actually be, that's not going all the way to 0 itself. Where are you? So what point are we getting in here? Because this might be like page... Yep, 8.8. That's probably coming from LMUI. Oh, no, that's me. Now, I'm sure LMUI has ways to do that. The nice thing about this is that it is a fixed amount. We take this out somewhere. Geometry sub... I'm always unsure how that sub goes. Oh! Or did I misspell it? Did I never put geometry into here? So I might need to fine-tune our detection area a little bit, but that's basically right. And I might want to stick with that while I work out zoom and things. Now. So that's part of our offset. Did we decide this made a difference? Okay. Still bothers me a little bit that this thing is a different size, but we seem to be able to hit that okay. Although I guess I was kind of extending it all the way into that padding, so we'll see. Maybe we should do something like that. So it's at least kind of close. I guess I could also zoom in. It would be kind of the same thing. I'll just be combining a different size with it. Yeah, so we're just not accounting for that. We just have to figure out where to put that in. Now, if we're looking at this, we did offset scale. So does that mean zoom should be about the first thing? Since it was the last there? I'm not sure about how that interacts with offset. That seems to be very wrong. Of course, my zoom could also be backwards. Yeah, that we might just want to check out. So that is 0.22. Well, our X location should be just straight up 0 there. No, 0.22. Yeah, on the other end? Let's see, so it used to be, oh, interesting. So it's only offset in X. I mean, we know that is 0. Why would it only be offset in X? Wait, that's saying Z, no, 0.25, okay. And that's saying very, very close to 0. That's location. 0.8, well, we did zoom it up, but that means this probably also needs to be reversed. Did I get the compile? Oh. So that's been like a no-op. Maybe now it goes someplace else. Oh. Huh. Well, actually, I think the collage might apply things not in order all the time. Or whether order doesn't matter. Ooh, okay. Maybe our offset isn't correct. Because it also moved it. Yeah, let's go back to zoom 1. Get that variable out of the way. And actually, can we get offset to be... Well, this is going to be in screen coordinates, right? All right, so that was never correct. All right, so test location 0.495. Location is at positive 2.5, so that's... It's like way the heck wrong. Hmm. Now offset was 0 before, so it's possible... Oh. We need to flip U? Well, if it's just a flip issue, then this would be right-ish. And that is actually, that's location. Test is 0.5, which is very wrong. All right, mouse, 100, 100, offset. That seems like that should be backwards. Does this work? If not, I should have something that does that. Okay, that seems better. Scale, center, -5, -5. Then what the heck happens? Test at 1 something. So for this space, 0, 0 seems reasonable there. Seems like we would have to scale it before doing a 0.5 offset. Scale, center. That's getting larger. So if that's 0, 0, we want it to be negative, negative point, negative point, negative point. Oh no, maybe our sub is backwards. Oh yeah, that's negative, so I just happened to get positives the one time I was looking at it. So sub is in fact not what we want here. We kind of arbitrarily did that. Well, no, subtract. Oh, but my offset was already, we said we were having to use it negative. So does that mean you're an add? Or I might have to invert them. Well, because you are 100, 100 right now. We do need to do a subtraction there. It just has to be the other way. And I actually think I can get positive coordinates inside our collision area here. Okay. All right, smaller, 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 smaller. Smaller, 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 smaller. Okay. Offset is where we want it. And we're just not even accounting for this right now. That seems not quite a diagonal, but within what we'd expect. Did I get the compile? Because that seemed like it was exactly as it was before. Oh. Okay, and that just goes right in with zoom, apparently. Now that's times. Well, doing them both that way is clearer. So we should be able to kind of move that around and still have that hit. Okay. Now I don't know if the rest of these are going to be in the same coordinate system. Although we kind of wanted to use the God area to short circuit it a little bit. Now, do I still have tweaked? I think I tweaked my sizes a little bit. And I was kind of using this as my baseline, so we might have to consider the size for individual things. Or for classes of things. All right, so all we did was that. I guess we'd actually want to do a god first, because they can cut down to their collection. Well, I kind of need to consider those anyway, because these can get kind of overlapped. And I might eventually have to do some closeness sorting. So we've got all of you. You are a filter. Strictly speaking, it might be nicer to do this all as filter plus filter plus filter, and then you take the head of the resulting list. I guess I'd have to actually concatenate everything together. The other thing we want to do is we need to take metrics.gods, and we're going to be maybe. But we actually want we want to maybe, but then we have to take the thing off the list. So and this is actually of one God's boons. Although I guess we'd also do it this way. And this filter mapped down to a list of IDs of which we only care about was there at least one for the time being. Oh, it's an array. Which we still do index lookups. But maybe I could just do a list search for that. All right, we're not doing any optimized is it in the God things here. So this is slightly offset, interestingly enough. Now, this might be a small enough thing I wouldn't have noticed it as much on the duos. No. That feels pretty consistent on the different edges. Now you're not off to the corner here. Oh, that's kind of off to the corner. Oh, maybe it's just the size. Oh, and then it's detecting something else over here because it's still taking the first. We're not doing a closest. Yeah, so this might just be the size test. Is we need to do something more custom there? Did I guess I toggled you? Okay, yeah, so we're going to have to count for how big they are. How big they are is actually a little bit of a display issue. So I might have to do a little bit of recalculation there on the hit checks. I don't know if I want to save that. I could have a base value in there. Now, we did have one little optimization we could do. You're not a Boolean, though. We're going to have to think about what that does. So we first, well, there's two levels to this. And this is where I need to know how big you are, which is in the top level metrics. I'll cut down the search a little bit. Now, how do I combine these? Metrics gods, array2 list. List dot, is that a filter map of hit? Is that the same? Hit boons, hit god. And you need a size, which is metrics dot adjacent distance. That filter maps it down to that, and then the list, and then the head wraps there maybe around it. Oh. I forget the radius to the diameter. I think we... Adjacent distance, adjacent distance. It is, we see scale by, so I guess that's radius? List boon. Oh, you just plain take a list. And then you're not, then you're just maybe. All right, we're not doing both right now. Let's figure out how to combine those. We have two things that produce a maybe. Either of them will do. Now, if it's with default, it's not a maybe anymore. We kind of only want to do it in the error case. Or in the nothing case. Okay. So hit boon. I guess you also got a radius. And then for basic boons, well, these are duos. We were using 0.3. We have to go back and adjust these to what our actual scales are. And for individual guys, we're using that. Oh, let's hit boons. But... no, wait, you were hit God. Yeah, hit boons. So we gotta pass it from here. All right, float radius, radius. Now what? I didn't think I touched any of that stuff. Oh, because I copied you and you. No, you're still point. Oh, but you're hit boons. Then we were at. What was wrong with you? Now these were actually calculated values. So that's duo boon size and that's basic boon size. What are we going to need here? It's just really just relative to zoom. Which has to get passed through that entire chain. And duo boon. No, actually that was duo boon. Basic boon was 1 to 2. Is that right? Yeah, that's right. Ooh, he's not happy with that. Oh, and then we just have to put the scale back. All right, so hit boons. We do have a zoom. We use that here. Hit God. So I guess ideally we would just pass the size down to you. Oh, we were passing the God radius. Oh, you need 2 radiuses. If that's the case. Duo boon size of zoom. Basic boon size of zoom. So that's the scaling factor I'm using for those. But it feels like it needs to be about half. Ish. But I'm using this for the actual sizing. So it's not like I can just change that thing. Maybe it's the way Scale's using it. That's a little wonky. But yeah, that feels about right. So maybe Scale is treating it as a diameter and this is treating it as a radius. Well, that means well, yeah, I mean, the testing each god would... I never really tested that, but I don't have a good way to test if we are in a particular god. And we only return one right now. We have a god metrics, which has a god ID. Oh, yep. So that must be diameter. I don't know if this is me moving down to the hit side of things. All right, so that gives us a maybe from a point. So we don't actually want that in mouse move. All right, and some of this was just fudging it up into a set. So this is essentially going to be what we had as like a view mouse. Well, it's still going to be, this is coming from view mouse down. We had a, what was it? Viewed at selected boon. I don't know if this is ever going to need to do a message. Select boon ID. Oh, model. Okay. So on mouse down. This is where it almost has to be on mouse up. That introduces a little bit of delay. And maybe we could just ignore that for now. Well, there's the geometry.add, which is a little funky, but that feels like that's an aspect of the application rather than a chart. It doesn't really need to be in that function. This is also assuming we actually found something. So what do we do if it is, well, it can't easily maybe map it because the ID is in the wrong place. And the default would be the model anyway. We have to do a lot of stuff for hit detection. You've got your own local hit boon, which is going to take... You need a bunch of model information. Oh, and then we might eventually want to switch this to stored layout. I'll call it a model transformation. Although we could do it as a thing that checks it and handles the click. And on down, are you an if? No, you're a case. So I guess if there was such a function, it would be an internal thing with just simpler cases. So we could avoid that duplication with a function to be sort of similar. If we ever got into more subtle tit detection, maybe that would kind of need to be integrated. Now, hover over highlight might actually be a thing we want at some point, but it's gonna be doing something different. We just have a oh man, why is my drag slow now? What did we start doing? No, it doesn't update until mouse up. Oh. I had to temporarily modify my move detector. Now, it doesn't explain the flip-flop. Hadn't rebuild yet. What? Oh. I used to be doing a thing that toggled. Oh, no, I've still got selected boon hooked up. Oh. Which means you do fire on mouse up. Oh man, so like goes all the way down. But if we were to set a drag here, it would count that. Which, interestingly enough, so this operates based on the state of drag. So we would have to test for not dragging. And then we're doing a model update. Oh, no, this is going to have to test based on time. We don't have any concept of time right now. So whether it's up or down doesn't really matter until we have, well, either that or amount of movement that occurred. But until we have something to that effect, well, actually, dragging state does have the original offset, so we could get the distance. Let's see, so that would have to say, if that, do we check to see if there was a click, and then we go do the click? Actually, I'm not sure that was a problem we were free from before, although it would have occurred on release instead of on press. I might just have to use that for a while and see how big of a problem it is. Pre-calculate, okay, so we haven't done the optimization on that yet. Save calculated layout. I guess metrics is what we ended up calling it. Then we can save all that work when we're doing hit tests, and for all of the re-renders as well. I don't know if it's a problem right now. I mean, there's I guess there's a little bit of inefficiency right on the drawing side right now, just because we have to calculate that entire data structure instead of being able to use things sort of in their individual sections. I don't think there's anything new. Maybe I should call it artisanal hit detection. All right, but that should at least keep things from being frustrating as we're going around testing clicks and things. Because that, like, just works. Now, it doesn't account for clicks on there, so maybe we have to, well, I mean, we could go down to like, well, I want to actually test in the diamond, and then we check the little block down here for the text if we want to get really fancy. But we can do all of that on our own terms. So I'm slightly annoyed by the load performance on the DXFs. That's something I might want to just like code generate when we get down to final data. Just right now I'm still tweaking things a lot. So I'm still debating whether I want to update that now for development quality of life, or go through and update that now, rewrite it, see how the streaming parser works, or, well, it might be interesting to get into Elm benchmarking and performance, because it's not obvious how to do that in the pure functional environment. See if what's slow is what I think is slow. Anywho, this is right now. This is gonna be one of my Saturday morning projects, and also Monday morning, and then sometimes on other evenings when I feel like it. Then tomorrow afternoon will be into 1 Hour 1 Life, and Sunday will be probably the end of Below Zero. I don't know if I'm gonna have a lot of code right now. Yeah, I don't tend to haunt a whole lot of coding stuff at night. Oh, wait. Actually, there's one. I suspect it's kind of the same person we usually hit. Oh, never mind. Good night. thanks to support from subscribers. We will be back at this tomorrow morning.